All right, let's start with something totally different today. I told this story on the bonus show a couple of days ago. People said, David, you've got to tell that story on the podcast, make a YouTube clip. I want to send it to people. I would never send a clip of the bonus show to anyone who hasn't paid for it. And so I'm going to tell this story. And it is the story of my girlfriend testing positive for COVID in Europe during our recent trip. Now, you're going to be able, wait. If you're writing a comment, you should stop. You're going to have to first listen to the story before commenting, because otherwise you're going to look really silly. Listen to the story before you comment. When you look at the comments, you'll be able to tell who commented already. Okay. As many of you know, recently took a vacation to northwestern Spain. Beautiful vacation, much needed break, fully vaccinated. Both of us, we did all the things that you're supposed to do. Providing proof of vaccination when we went to Germany at the end of the trip for a layover. We did everything. We had every document. We did the health app and all of these different things, wore masks, everything. Good. Now, the US requires a COVID test negative to come back home, no matter where you're coming from. Great. So you can always find a test abroad, and you've got to make sure that it's in a language that's accepted by the airlines, and you've got to make sure that it's the right type of test. And in places like Spain, where everything's closed Sunday and they had a Catholic holiday the last Monday, we knew it might be tough to get a test locally. So what did we do? There are now two tests, one from Abbott and one from Ellume, which are at-home tests, which are authorized for return travel to the US, but you've got to have someone watch you via telehealth. You can't just do the test and then say, hey, great, I'm negative, because it could have been somebody else who took it or who knows what. You might not have done it correctly. So I ordered two of these tests, $50 each. The $50 includes the test, which you take with you, and you schedule an appointment to have someone observe you, making sure that you're swabbing or schwabbing correctly, as the term is. And then if you're positive or negative, you get a PDF and it tells you, and then you show that to the airline. Great. So we're there. We're doing everything outdoors. Everything's great. We have a couple of friends there overlapping with us. They get their negative tests and they go home and everything's good. And so we get ready for our appointments and we connect via telehealth, and you swab, and then you put the swab into a liquid, and then you put drops into a receiver, which connects to your phone via Bluetooth, and the person watches you. And then they say, you did everything right. And a 15-minute countdown starts on your phone. So we've got our phones next to each other, and it's counting down and it's counting down and it's counting down. It gets to 0 and my phone blings and it says, sir, you're negative for COVID. Fantastic. And I look over and my girlfriend's looking at her phone and it says, ma'am, you are positive for COVID. And we say, okay, let's not go crazy. We read these tests have a 2% false positive rate. They sent us an extra third test just in case. So we re-up and we get another telehealth observation. And 20 minutes later, she swabs and she puts it in. And then we got the countdown again. We're going, all right, there's probably not going to be two false positives. And nobody's symptomatic. And our friends had negative tests. And the 15 minutes count down and boom, a big plus sign. She is positive a second time for COVID-19. Now, at this point, we're just thinking 2% odds of a single positive test, the odds of of a single false positive test, the odds of two consecutive false positives. Does she have COVID? No. How could it be? We didn't go inside. We wore our masks. Everybody's fine. How would I be negative? It does, but two in a row. I don't know. And the company says, listen, we've never heard of two consecutive false positives in a row, but maybe get yourself a PCR. Now, at this point, it's 8 p.m. on a Saturday in Spain, the day before a 2-day Catholic holiday. Where the hell are you going to get a PCR test? I start calling around. No, everything's closed. Through a contact, we end up getting the opportunity to get a PCR test at a hospital, 24-hour hospital. Our contact says, go there, say you suspect you have a false positive, nobody's symptomatic. As one of my lights turned, the story is so crazy, one of my lights turned off, show up there. So we go and I explain the situation, and an emergency room doctor comes out and says, you are breaking the law by being here while potentially positive. You got a positive test. You need to be in isolation. If you don't go home now, we will call the police. And I tried to explain, no, these are less reliable at-home tests, and I'm negative, everybody. We're just trying to go home before we call the police. At this point, we're shaken and things are getting pretty stressful. Is she positive? Are we going to be stuck in Spain potentially for weeks? How do I do the show? I've got to come back and talk about Afghanistan. People are emailing me saying, David, where did you go? Come back and talk about Afghanistan. So we call our contact who says that should not have happened. That is not the protocol. I'm going to have someone who works at the hospital meet you, and we're going to get you a PCR today. So we go back. Someone helps my girlfriend. They do a full PCR, normal test. The swab, it must have been 2 feet long. I've never seen a swab this big. It was crazy. This is now like 10 p.m. And they say could be up to 24 hours, probably more like 12. It was not a good night of sleep. I can tell you that, because I'm thinking 2 positives in a row. This is not looking good. We're going to be stuck here. I'm going to have to figure out, how do I work from Spain for, what would it be? A week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I don't even know how long we're going to be stuck there. This is a disaster. Where are we going to stay? We barely sleep. 8:30 in the morning, I grab my phone and I have a message. Negativo, negative, in big capital letters. It was 2 false positives in a row. Our suspicions that it didn't really make sense that there would be just one. I mean, listen, if we all get it on a fluke, okay, it was spread, but everybody's negative except for her. It didn't make sense. And fortunately, she was COVID negative. We went onward on our trip to Frankfurt just for a layover because of the scheduling of the flights. Now here's the really, and I hate to even bring this up, but the truth is they barely even looked at our negative tests. I mean, I'm against fake vaccine cards and I'm against faking negative tests. It's a reality that we could have shown them almost anything. I mean, I pulled up my test results and they didn't look at what was the test. The rules are, if it's a home test, it must be under observation. And you've got to verify that it was under observation, that the company signed off. They said, show me your name. I said, here it is. They said, show me where it says negative. I said, here it is. They said, show me the date. Here it is. It could have been anything. And the truth is, anybody could have. I would never do this. Anybody could have taken the PDF, taken a screenshot of it, whited it out where it said positive on her test, and typed in negative. And there's no central database of these tests. Nobody, the woman at Lufthansa who looked at the test, she has no idea whether it's a JPEG or a PDF, could it be edited or not. So as a system, on principle, because you have 3 days to test before your flight, you could test negative, then get sick and still be sick on the plane. I mean, that's just the reality. People travel with colds, people travel with flu. That could happen. But the ease with which one could just fake a negative test didn't fully inspire confidence. And I mean, listen, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. But fortunately, it was actually negative. We didn't get stuck in Europe. And so I was here and I was able to do the show Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's the story. Now, what lessons did we learn? Number one, I don't think it's worth the convenience of doing the test at our accommodation. I don't think is worth the higher chance of a false positive, because when they say 2% chance of a false positive and you're, at home before the trip, that feels very different than getting 2 positives in a row and realizing you may not be able to come back to the United States. So it just doesn't seem worth it. I think in the future, if we do this again, I'll look for an actual local PCR test. The other thing is, maybe there's going to be no more international travel until you can come back just with a vaccine, because truly, I mean, the possibility of just being stuck for what potentially would be weeks. Was the trip great? Yeah, the trip was great. Would that have been worth it to get stuck there for potentially weeks? I don't know about that, but I'm glad it didn't happen. So if you commented at the very beginning of this, when I said my girlfriend tested positive, hopefully you'll delete your comment now and realize that your comment doesn't make any sense. She tested positive, but was negative. And we could say, to quote Donald Trump, ultimately, she tested positively from the standpoint of negative. In other words, no COVID. That's the important thing. Let me know your thoughts. You can find me on Twitter at @Pakman. When we're talking about sleep, we always hear about how much sleep people get, but often neglected in the conversation is the quality of that sleep, which is just as important. And science shows that lowering your body temperature during sleep can help you be more rested and achieve better sleep. And that's where our sponsor, Chili Sleep, comes in. Chili Sleep makes customizable, climate-controlled sleep solutions to help you improve your sleep. Comes in two varieties, the Uller sleep system and the Cube sleep system. That's what I have on my bed. Both are hydro-powered, temperature-controlled, luxury mattress pads. You can make your bed as cold as 55 degrees. I choose 60. You can make it as hot as 115 degrees if that's your thing. I don't feel hot anymore at night. No more sweating. I'm sleeping better, and I love it. I also have the Chili Sleep Chili Blanket, which helps keep me cool on top as well. They'll give you 20% off everything when you go to chilisleep.com/Pakman. The link is right underneath this video.